Have you ever wondered why it's so easy to notice other people's flaws, yet almost impossible to see your own? Think about the last time someone criticized you. Maybe you immediately started explaining why they were wrong. It's why they didn't understand you, or why the situation wasn't your fault. Now ask yourself this. What if they were at least partially right? What if the biggest obstacle in your life isn't your circumstances, your past, or other people, but a weakness you've never been able to see? The most dangerous weakness isn't the one you know about. It's the one hidden in your blind spot. And the strange truth is that your brain is designed to protect that blind spot. It doesn't want you to see every uncomfortable truth about yourself because, from an evolutionary perspective, protecting your self-image often felt safer than questioning it. But in the modern world, that same protective mechanism can quietly keep you stuck for years. By the end of this video, you'll understand why your greatest weakness often hides in plain sight, and why discovering it may be the most powerful thing you ever do. Imagine standing in front of a mirror that reflects everything except one small part of your face. You don't know it's missing because you've never seen anything different. Every morning you look into that mirror and believe you're seeing the complete picture. That's exactly how the human mind works. Psychologists call this the blind spot bias, our tendency to recognize biases, flaws, and mistakes in everyone except ourselves. Ironically, the people who believe they are the most objective are often the least aware of their own limitations. We assume we're seeing reality clearly while unknowingly filtering it through emotions, past experiences, fears, and personal beliefs. Our mind creates an edited version of reality that feels true, even when it isn't. The reason lies deep in evolution. Thousands of years ago, humans depended on social groups to survive. Being accepted by the tribe meant safety, food, and protection. If your brain constantly reminded you of every flaw and failure, your confidence would collapse, making you less likely to take risks or contribute to the group. So evolution built a protective system, gently distorted reality just enough to preserve your sense of competence and identity. This doesn't mean your brain lies maliciously. It means it edits reality in ways that help you function. The problem is that what once increased survival can now prevent growth. A person who believes they're always right never learns. A person who thinks they're already self-aware stops discovering themselves. Criticism doesn't just challenge an opinion, it challenges your identity. When someone points out a weakness, your brain reacts almost as if it's facing a physical threat. Stress hormones rise, your heart rate changes.
Ow.
Your mind starts searching for evidence to defend itself. That's why arguments rarely change people's minds. Most conversations aren't battles over facts, they're battles over identity. Ego quietly whispers. Protect who you think you are, even when that means rejecting information that could improve your life. There's another reason your biggest weakness remains invisible. Your habits become so familiar that they feel like part of your personality. Someone who constantly avoids difficult conversations may simply say, "I'm just a quiet person." Someone who procrastinates may believe, "I work better under pressure." Someone who fears rejection might convince themselves they simply haven't found the right opportunity. Over time, coping mechanisms disguise themselves as character traits. You stop seeing the behavior because you've built an entire story around it. And once a story becomes part of your identity, questioning it feels like questioning yourself. Think about how often we judge others by their actions, but judge ourselves by our intentions. If someone else interrupts during a conversation, we call them rude. If we interrupt, we say we were excited. Someone misses a deadline, they're irresponsible. If we miss one, we had a difficult week. This double standard isn't always deliberate. It's the result of your brain having access to your intentions, but only seeing other people's behavior. The mind naturally creates kinder explanations for itself than it does for others. Over years, these tiny distortions accumulate until our self-image becomes increasingly disconnected from reality. One of the greatest paradoxes of life is that confidence and self-awareness don't always grow together. Sometimes they move in opposite directions. Beginners often feel highly confident because they don't yet understand what they don't know. Experts, on the other hand, recognize countless complexities and become more humble. This phenomenon appears everywhere, from careers to relationships to personal growth. The more you truly understand yourself, the more you realize how much remains hidden. Real wisdom doesn't begin when you have all the answers. It begins when you become suspicious of your own certainty. As you grow older, something strange begins to happen. You start noticing that the mistakes holding you back are no longer caused by other people, they're caused by you. But here's the frightening part. Most of the time, you can't even see them. Your biggest weakness hides in plain sight, influencing your choices, your relationships, your confidence, and your future without ever announcing its presence. If someone else points it out, you instantly become defensive. You explain yourself. You justify your behavior. You tell yourself they simply don't understand you. But what if the person who understands you the least is actually you? It sounds impossible, yet psychology suggests that our minds are experts at hiding uncomfortable truths from ourselves. Not because we're dishonest, but because the brain is built to protect our identity before it protects reality. Think about it. Have you ever argued with someone and believed you were completely right, only to realize months later that you were the problem? Have you ever watched someone repeat the same mistake again and again and wondered why they couldn't see it while secretly doing the exact same thing in another part of your own life? This is one of the greatest paradoxes of being human. We can often recognize flaws in others within seconds, yet remain blind to our own for years. It's like trying to look directly at your own eyes without a mirror. No matter how hard you try, there are parts of yourself you simply cannot see from your own perspective. Psychologists call this the blind spot bias, the tendency to believe that everyone else is influenced by biases while we ourselves are objective. Ironically, the people who are most convinced they don't have blind spots usually have the biggest ones. Your brain constantly creates a story about who you are. In that story, you're generally a good person, a reasonable person, someone who makes sense. Whenever evidence appears that threatens this identity, your mind doesn't calmly analyze it. It immediately begins defending it. It edits memories, changes interpretations, invents explanations, and protects the image you've built of yourself. This happens so quickly that you rarely notice it. Imagine carrying a cracked mirror your entire life. Every reflection you see is slightly distorted. But because you've never looked through any other mirror, you assume it's perfectly accurate. That cracked mirror is your self-image. It shapes how you interpret every success, every failure, every compliment, and every criticism. If someone says you're impatient, your brain instantly searches for reasons they're wrong. If someone praises you, you accept it without much resistance. This isn't because you're arrogant. It's because the brain naturally accepts information that strengthens identity and rejects information that threatens it. One of the biggest reasons we can't see our greatest weakness is something psychologists call self-serving bias. When things go well, we credit our intelligence, talent, or hard work. When things go badly, we blame circumstances, bad luck, or other people. If you pass an exam, you're smart. If you fail, the questions were unfair. If your relationship succeeds, you're loving. If it fails, your partner didn't understand you. Little by little, your brain protects your self-esteem by rewriting reality. Over time, these small distortions accumulate until your biggest weakness becomes almost invisible. This explains why personal growth feels so difficult. You can't fix a problem you refuse to see. Imagine trying to repair a house while ignoring the largest crack in the foundation. You might repaint the walls, replace the furniture, and decorate every room. But the real problem remains hidden beneath everything else. Many people spend years improving the visible parts of themselves while never confronting the invisible habits quietly controlling their arousal. Strange thing is that our greatest weakness often begins as our greatest strength. Confidence becomes arrogance. Kindness becomes people-pleasing. Discipline becomes perfectionism. Independence becomes emotional isolation. Intelligence becomes overthinking. The qualities that once helped us survive gradually become the traits that limit us. But because they started as strengths, we rarely question them. Instead, we become proud of them, even when they've begun causing damage. Your brain also fears uncertainty more than discomfort. Admitting a weakness creates uncertainty because it forces you to question who you are. Remaining blind feels safer because your identity stays intact. That's why many people continue repeating painful patterns instead of facing uncomfortable truths. Staying the same feels predictable. Change requires admitting that the version of yourself you've trusted for years might not be entirely accurate. Perhaps that's the greatest illusion of all. We spend so much time trying to understand the world that we forget to understand the person interpreting it. The world you experience is filtered through your beliefs, your fears, your memories, your expectations. and your hidden weaknesses. Change the filter, and the entire world appears different. That's why two people can experience the exact same event and walk away with completely different realities. They aren't seeing the world as it is, they're seeing it as they are. So the next time you find yourself blaming someone else, defending yourself without listening, or insisting that you're completely right, pause for just a moment. Ask yourself a question that your brain naturally wants to avoid. What if there's something about myself I still can't see? That single question is uncomfortable, challenges your identity, but it also opens the door to genuine growth, because the strongest people aren't those who have no weaknesses. They're the ones courageous enough to discover the weaknesses hiding behind their strengths. In the end, your biggest enemy isn't failure. It isn't criticism. The moment you stop assuming you already know yourself completely is the moment you begin seeing what was invisible all along. And perhaps the greatest act of courage isn't changing who you are, it's finally being willing to see who you've been all this time.